This program raises questions. This program is for people who find it hard to trust God. The best answers are wrapped in flesh and blood. My friends, people who are enduring real tragedies every single day. Quadriplegia, muscular dystrophy, stroke, bankruptcy, loneliness, singleness. We're going to talk to those very people who have touched my life. Okay, girls. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, I broke my neck at the 4th, 5th cervical level. That means my spinal cord has been severed there, and I've got pretty good shoulder muscles, halfway decent biceps, but that's about it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good start. I can't feel from the collarbone level down. So I'm paralyzed, I guess you would say, from the shoulders down.
Can you straighten up? Yeah, it can come up a bit.
Okay. Oh, that feels better.
Your ways.
Yeah. Well, I've got about maybe 8 or 9 different girls who on 7 different mornings get me up, sometimes 20 different ways. That's it, put my elbows in. Oh, that feels good. Wow. Just helps breathing that way. Since I can't use my hands, I need help with getting a bath, a shower, toileting routines. That means every day I'm gonna look a little different. My hairdo or my, lipstick, mascara, whatever, something might be applied a little bit differently, but it teaches me a lot of flexibility. I'm pretty grateful for that. I don't get too rigid in my ways. I go with the flow, and on Monday I might go to work with the Beverly Bouffant, and Tuesday it's the Francie Flip. Wednesday it's the Patty hairdo. But it teaches me how to be flexible. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. There's a lot that has to be done to this body of mine, and I'm pretty grateful for the people who help me. Okay? I will sing the wondrous story of the cross who died for me. Love the God.
Love you too.
Some people sometimes look at me in this wheelchair and they say, well, Joni, you're different. You're married, you got a nice husband, you got a house, you got a job. Most disabled people don't have all those blessings. And my quick response is always to say, yes, I'm aware of that. But to whom much is given, much is going to be required. And if I receive any blessing from God, I better, quick like a hot potato, get it off my lap and pass it on to the next person, which is why we do what we do at the International Disability Center, whether it's family retreats, Wheels for the World trips, whether it's training churches, reaching out to other couples with disabilities. Pass on the blessing. Say, I like family retreat.
I love family retreat because of swimming in the pond, canoeing in the pond, campfire last night, and had songs last night, and we got horseback riding and go-karts.
Yay! Yoo-hoo! Can you give out a big yell?
Yay!
Okay, here's how it's gonna go. We're gonna roll camera.
It was a very difficult thing to recreate my own life before cameras.
Joni, watch out for crabs!
I hit my head on the bottom. I guess it was a sandbar, I don't know. I tried to surface, move my arms, my shoulders. Nothing moved.
Joni?
The water was murky, dark, and I knew that I was going to drown. And so I was holding my breath, hoping that my sister Kathy would notice that, I hadn't surfaced from my dive yet. And yet there was this strange peace. And people often talk about dying grace. And although I did not die then, obviously, I think there was a hint of dying grace God gave me. That I didn't panic, that I didn't swallow water, that I didn't drown. But I held my breath and I waited. I just waited. And she was there, my sister was there. I was rescued, but only by the skin of my teeth, because my lungs were bursting, and as I was pulled up out of the water, I swallowed a big gulp, sputtering, spitting, gasping for oxygen, and air never tasted so good. You know, diving off that raft into the Chesapeake Bay, it seems like somebody else's life. It was so long ago. I was such a kid, such a little girl, a teenager. But it's funny, whenever I'm in a restaurant now and I order Maryland crab cakes straight from the Chesapeake Bay, it always puts a lump in my throat. My chest gets a little tight, and I look at that word Chesapeake Bay, and for me it's not, it just means such a change point. It's such a milestone, it's such a transition, it's such a, was that really me? And it was. You know, sometimes when we ask why, I don't really think we're looking for answers. I don't know if even if we had answers, they'd suffice. It'd be like pouring million-gallon truths into my 1-ounce pea brain. I just don't know that I could handle it all. I don't know that answers would satisfy. So when I ask why, and sometimes I do ask why, even now, because of new levels of pain in my shoulders and neck, getting older, it's harder. I'm more like the kid who has ridden the bike, fallen off, scraped his knee, looks up at Daddy, says, "Why, Daddy?" And I don't think it would be very good of that earthly daddy to look down at his child and say, "Well, you know, you shouldn't have been riding your bike so fast." Have a wonderful day. Hope you're not too late for work. Good. Thank you, you too. Hey, good morning. No, the kid doesn't want answers. That child just wants Daddy to pick him up, press him against his breast, pat him on the back, and say, there, honey, it's going to be okay. Daddy's here. And I think that's what I want when I say why. I just want God to be near and to hold me against his breast and pat me on the back and say, there, Johnny, it's going to be okay. God is here. I'm your daddy, God, Abba, Father. I'm not going to leave you. I'm at the center of your suffering. And that helps. I like at work and prayer, to Jesus I repair. My goodness, I go away for 12 hours and look at all these emails. I'll put my glasses here. I love what I do at our International Disability Center. I can't believe I get to come to work, that I'm healthy enough to work. I borrow the hands of my secretary. No, not yet. Sometimes I dictate to the computer using a voice activation setup. Reply to mail. Mouse click. I am leaving town in a few days and won't be back to Los Angeles until the middle of September.
Hey, Joni.
Good to see you.
Good to see
How you doing?
too.
How you doing?
I'm good. And
Neck
you?
hug, neck hug.
Hey.
Very well. Oh, great. Now you got to push me up. You are strong. That's what I call the blind leading the blind. Where are you heading?
I'm heading to, where am I heading? Texas, Arizona,
Oh, my goodness.
Australia, Singapore.
Oh, my goodness, you're going to Singapore.
Yeah.
What, are you speaking there?
Yeah.
Wonderful. I do the Joni and Friends radio program. Rachel's life was a ministry to all who knew her, and her bedroom was a place of joy and peace, a place where even her nurses could not wait to come and unwind and feel the presence of God. When Rachel went home to be with Jesus, Mary did something pretty special with her daughter's wheelchair. Welcome, Mary. And just what did you do with that wheelchair of Rachel's?
Well, Johnny, there was never any question. We knew about your ministry, Wheels for the World.
Even through lunch, I'm working. That's fantastic. Giving those away during a wheels distribution would be wonderful.
And this is going to be kind of a strange question because it seems to be rather obvious.
Okay, it looks like the Joni book, but it looks like it's in English.
All right. Actually, it's the New International Version.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness, fantastic. I love any picture of Ken, but that is so sweet. Him pointing out what the red bead means on a gospel bracelet to this little boy in Africa. Gee, that's so heartwarming. When I was a little girl, the highlight of my evening was to sit on the floor and watch my daddy. After he finished his work at his desk, he'd pull out his paints and get out the turpentine, open up the oils, squeeze some real beautiful, shiny, wet colors on his palette. And it was so wonderful when Daddy would invite me up on his knee. I can't believe he did this. But he'd invite me up on his knee, and he'd put his big hand around my little hand, and together he would guide me, but I was holding the brush, and we'd dab into the color and start sweeping and swirling on canvas. And oh my goodness, I mean, there I was creating this beautiful work of art. And I felt like I did it. I mean, I really didn't. It was Daddy who did it. It was his movement guiding me. Can you come with me in the other room and I'll show you what he did? And so this is my father. I guess he's about the age of 82 or 83 here. And he's whittling away at this wood, and he'd start chipping away and chiseling away all the dead bark, all the dirt, all the things that were dead. And he'd reveal the most beautiful wood underneath. And my father, when he saw this right before he died, and I explained the story behind it, was so touched. And like any little girl looking for her father's approval, when I saw my father smile and the light of recognition go off in his eyes when he saw, that's me, that meant the world. My sisters have seen this and they say, yep, that's Daddy. So that's where I get my inspiration.
As we reenacted scenes of people visiting me in the hospital, I realized anew how much the support of my family and friends really meant, especially my parents.
Oh, Anita Floyd's my second home. Has been for a long time.
I remember when she was face down on her striker frame, and I looked underneath and I said, "Hi, Johnny." And she smiled, said, "Hi, Dad." And it sort of put me up in the air. And I'll be honest with you, on lots of times the good Lord and I had long talks.
I had a special song that saw me through so many things I do not know. Why oft around me, my hopes all shattered seem to be. God's perfect plan I cannot see, but someday I'll understand. Then it went, someday he'll make it plain to me. Someday when I his face shall see, someday from tears I shall be free. For someday I shall understand. And boy, that did help a lot. When things got so bad and you start wondering, why, what's ahead, what are we going to do? I just sort of went over that over and over again.
My mother and father never would have dreamed that their prayers for me, and not just their prayers, but the love they poured into my life, would have such a huge impact on so many other disabled people around the world. This is the first time that this little guy has walked. Hey, you're doing good walking. You came here thinking you were going to get a wheelchair, and you get a walker. Oh, this is fantastic. You know, at these family retreats and at these Wheels for the World outreach trips, we meet a lot of young people. A lot of young people with muscular dystrophy, spina bifida, osteogenesis imperfecta, spinal cord injury, you name it, polio survivors. I would like to see these people become an army, a force, if you will, of of believers who follow Jesus so closely, who love him so passionately, who are so earnest about not only declaring but demonstrating that gospel to other people who are hurting and helpless, that it'll make the world sit up and take notice. A cynical, skeptical world will be convinced of God's love when they see people who are in pain say yes to God and no to complaining and self-centeredness or anxiety or fear of the future or whatever. I want to see a whole army of young people with disabilities really shake up people's thinking, to really get people thinking about who God is.
Yes.
It's good. It's a perfect position.
Yeah. His heels were way up before and
Wow. I travel a lot. I know I should have stopped 15 years ago. My bones are so fragile and thin now. But I'm moved by people in need. The mission's worth it. When I was first injured on that hospital bed, I remember thinking as though I were some kind of a guinea pig, a celestial human experiment, breathing, eating, sleeping, existing there in that hospital bed, while everybody else beyond those hospital walls were, you know, getting married, getting jobs, going to college, having babies, going shopping. But all of that was stripped away from me. And I felt as though all the truths of the human race, you know, were like being tested on me. Like, is there a God? Is he real? What's his purpose? What's the plan? Are we just put here to get born and then grow old and then die? Is that it? And I remember thinking, if that's all there is, then why not put a gun to my head? Why put up with this suffering if there's nothing more than just breathing and eating and existing and then dying? There's got to be more to life than just existing. We're too significant. We're too unique. There's something in the deepest recesses of our soul, my heart, that tells me that I was made for some grand purpose. And you know, you're going to think this is strange, but I was invigorated by that challenge. And I said, okay, God, here I am, your celestial experiment, your human guinea pig. Prove yourself to be who you claim to be through Christ. And I'm going to prove that either you really are real and the Bible really is true, or else I'm going to be an experiment upon which all these truths that everybody keeps talking about can be tested. So God, you're either going to come through and be real in my life, because everybody else doesn't have time to think about you, but I've got a lot of time to think about you. And I'm going to put you to the test here.
On three? 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Oh, you perfect. You lost the weight. You just said that. So I know. You got stronger.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very grateful. You put it right here.
Alrighty.
That's not in your job description.
Oh, that's all right.
But
no,
that's a gracious thing to do. So thanks.
You're welcome.
And it was after I put that challenge to God, very slowly, not overnight, I began to sense a stirring in my heart, and I think it was hope. I was beginning to be hopeful. And to me, that was reason enough to keep on going. Ken and I have a pretty rich life together. I mean, we travel, the people we've met, the places we've been. If ever we start to feel a little slump-shouldered, we invigorate ourselves just thinking about what we've done and the people we've met. Oh.
Being married to Joni is been just a wonderful opportunity to be married to your best friend, number one, and also,
really,
you know, yeah, and also the fact that I think we realize now, 25 years later, that we really have a ministry as a couple.
when we first married, and sometimes people would say to me, you know, I've got this girlfriend, she's in a wheelchair. What do you think? I say, don't do it. Do not do it. Because it was hard. It was challenging. It was not easy with this wheelchair in the midst of our marriage.
Is Joni's purse right there?
Lucky we're going this far.
Thanks for the landing.
All right,
one,
You guys got it?
2, 3.
There we go.
Very good.
Okay. You're welcome.
Now, I'm happy to tell couples that, boy, if you're committed to follow what God says and lay your life down for the other person, then go ahead and tie the knot, because having a disability in the marriage is an incredible way for God to release His power in your relationship.
It's something that we would not have thought about 25 years ago, but today we can see the power of it. You know, how it can draw couples closer together than you could possibly, you know, have a relationship if you were able-bodied.
God satisfies with a capital S. No, not satisfies, that's the wrong word. He satiates. He soaks me with contentment. I mean, my heart is filled to overflowing. I can go to bed at night and I can close my eyes and I can be happy. What's that all about? I'm a quadriplegic who can't turn in the middle of the night, and yet I'm happy. Yes, there are times when the pain is searing. Yes, there are moments when I fight off anxiety. But I tell you, when I turn to God rather than to vanilla pecan nut ice cream, He tastes a lot better. Taste the Lord and know that He is good. And that's something every individual has to discover for himself. I can only say that the path God's Word has put me on has been a path of answers, of hope, of contentment, of joy, and peace that is so profound, and joy that tickles at the edges, and a rock-solid settledness in my soul. You're just going to have to put your trust in Jesus to discover Him for yourself. He's that good. He is ecstasy beyond words, and it is worth anything to be His friend, anything. When I travel somewhere, it's not the big meetings that energize me. It's those one-on-one times with people. Because blessing others is only one side of the coin. The other side, it's receiving the blessing. Oh, hug, hug, hug.
Oh, great to see you.
You have to push me back up. Can you do that?
Yep, I got you. You right?
Oh, you're a strong quad.
Oh, no.
You've got triceps.
A little bit.
You can push.
A little bit.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. I should have, of course, that would have to be if you push a. Here I am, crashing foot pedals with Cindy Blenner. Randy, how you doing? Good to see you. Okay. God gave us hands, a gift of love to share. Hands that can hold and help and hug, work perfectly as a pair. Left and right, together they can be wonderful tools, but mine can't be used, 'cause they have forgotten how for now. But may I borrow your hands? Mine don't work so well, but yours will do just fine. May I borrow your hands? They can work for me. They can be mine for a time. If you look at the Bible, it's clear God hates suffering. I mean, Jesus spent most of His time trying to relieve it. And His gospel was always a two-sided coin. On one side, He'd be declaring the good news, and on the other side, He'd be demonstrating it. And I think that's what we have to do. We just can't talk about the love of God. We have to give the love of God.
So I'm regularly moving like this just to fire up the spasm. But,
no kidding.
So yeah.
Does when you say the low blood pressure, does that make you feel faint, like you want to lean back?
Right, it does, right.
Now, is this something very recent?
No, it's been something that's been going on for years. It really has.
Do you find that when you talk more, it makes it more difficult to get your breath? The book of James says, what good does it do if you see somebody hungry and say, oh, well, be warm, be well, be fed, and then go on your way means nothing, not a zilch, zero. And so for us, the gospel of Jesus is not only giving that spiritual help, but a whole lot of practical help. No, it's right there.
No smashing.
Let me put my, okay, ahead, yeah. I'd turn this way. I have lipstick on, don't I?
Look at that fountain. Beautiful.
Wow. Look at the Sears Tower, Ken, look. Look at the Sears Tower. Look over here.
Pretty amazing.
Wow! You know, people always want to accuse God. They want to blame him like it's all his fault, a disability. Well, to say blame, to use words like fault implies he's done something wrong. He's done nothing wrong. But I do think that he allows the pain and the suffering to get people seriously thinking. I mean, it's like a wake-up call, like yellow flags waving, like red lights blinking, like wake up, wake up, wake up. What have you done with eternity? What's going to happen to you on the other side of the tombstone? I mean, have you taken God seriously? I think affliction does that. Suffering, heartache, headache does that. And that makes it meaningful. It makes it good. It makes it purposeful. If it really, and who he is, and can he really help me, then our worlds aren't spinning out of control. Suffering can be a bruising of a blessing if it really pushes us into the arms of Christ. There's so much more I would love to show you, tell you. If we could sit together for an afternoon, I would peel back the layers of my heart and tell you more about the struggles, the victories. Because even after more than 4 decades in this wheelchair, I still wake up in the morning needing God desperately. And God has answered our deepest needs through the gift of his son, Jesus. Jesus is the Prince of Life. He said he has the words of life, that he's the way, the truth, and the life. He even called himself the resurrection and the life. And knowing him helps me live. And do it with a smile.